equipment. Um, see, I'm gonna figure what I'm going to say here. Say we're interviewing here with our Mueller cheese factory equipment for Paul Mueller. Hey, golly, let me shake your hand. Long time I haven't seen you.
John.
We used to do a lot of work together. You did a lot of work for us down there at the factories that we were on.
Well, that's what we were in business for, John.
Yeah, from the town line on right up to the OP and over to the Warren cheese plant.
Right.
Yeah, I got it many times at night. You helped us out. And maybe today for recording the history of Monroe Cheesemaking History Center, we would like to tell you some of the experiences, maybe about your father when he came over and your mother, and a little bit about your life.
Well, my father was born in 1899, I'm sorry, and he came over to this country in 1919. And when he got his cheese plant, that was his first one, was the Olson Cheese Factory. He went back to Switzerland, married mother, came back. Mother had to wait so long to get her visa, and then she came over afterward.
The Olson factory now, that's in Lafayette County, is it?
Right, so by South Wayne.
Yeah, down by the Pecatonica River, right north of the town line cheese factory.
That's
the
right.
Olson factory, yes. My dad made cheese there too, by golly, you know. Yeah, there was a bad accident there. There was a family there. I remember one time, I think it was the first funeral I went to. I'd like to mention it too, you know, it was kind of a tragedy. Whey was the big thing in those days, and they had a vat there. And they pumped the whey right into this vat, and this, back in the 30s, and this young lad fell into it. And these were some of the hardships that cheesemakers and people went through in the early days also.
Oh, yeah. They had to get up into those vats, crawl inside to clean them, just with a brush. There was no automatically cleaning, and they normally had lids on them, and they just had a small opening to go into these vats.
Sure. Now, what type of work did you do over there at the plant? You know, at your shop there. Tell us some of the work that you did. Or
Well, in the early days, when Dad first went into that was in 1936. We went into partnership with Adolph Anliker, and mostly everything they'd done then was made in wood. They made the wood tables, the wood bats, they made wooden whey tanks, all the molds, Swiss molds, everything was in wood.
That was some beautiful artwork there. That was really, it was, I recall the press lids and those, they came out so beautiful looking, you know.
Yeah. And then my father started doing the service work, going out line shafts that they had to run the separators and all the other equipment. That was this one motor in the plant and a shaft with belts, pulleys and belts running off to each piece of equipment.
That's when they had electricity. And what did they use before?
Before that, they used steam engines.
Steam engines. I don't recall them either.
They were gone when I started, and we always had one in our shop that we had back in the back corner that was left over. In fact, I think it's still there.
Is that right?
Otherwise, everything got electrical then, but one motor would run the whole cheese plant, where now that would be an almost impossibility.
Yes. Yeah, you did a lot of repair work at night, right?
Oh, yes, well, at first, cheesemakers, they made cheese twice a day. They milk came in the morning with the farmers, and then they would make that cheese, and then they'd rest over the noon hour, and then the milk would come in again from the farmers, and they'd make cheese again, so it was twice a day, until they started getting storage tanks.
I remember one time when my folks called up Adolph Fogeln. He worked for you,
Oh,
right?
yes,
Adolph, the Kaiser, they called him the Kaiser, right?
Many, many years he worked for. He came over from Switzerland too, and he became a citizen, and he fought in World War I for this country.
And one of the things I remember, you know how you learn things when you're growing up, you know, see, and it was at nighttime with a flashlight, and he was soldering one of those tanks, your tin tanks, and I was supposed to hold the light. And of course, you know how a young boy is, that light went all over that tank, you know.
With Adolph, I'm sure you heard about it.
Yes, he said to me, you shine that light so you can see what I'm doing. And if you can see what I'm doing, then I know you got the light at the right place. So I never forgot that. I don't think that was over probably 8, 9 years ago.
No,
yeah.
He worked for us for many, many years. He started in 1945. He started working.
Well, you know, you people were really famous for separators, and
well, that was our main big item. Separators, of course, pulley deals, and they went to motor separators. At that time, we kept them in stock. There'd be 10 or 12 machines that we would have in our store. If you wanted one, you could have it the next day.
10 or 12, you can.
And they would cost around $5,000. Then in the 1980s, they started making self-cleaning separators. They cleaned themselves. And of course, the cheese plants got bigger, the separators got bigger, and you could get up to a separator that would cost $300,000. So there's quite a change in those machines.
Well, what capacity were some of the first ones, would you say?
Some of the first ones were actually 1,200 pounds an hour, and up to 15,000 pounds an hour. That was a normal size back in those days.
They would say the 50s, right?
Right. And then
40s
as they
and
got
50s.
bigger, we're up to 100,000 pounds an hour now.
Now it's 100,000, and you say it's self-cleaning, right?
They self-clean. It's
That's
like
fine.
everything in the plant now, with everything stainless steel instead of wood. Just about everything is self-cleaning in that plant.
My God, it's quite a change. You know, Paul, by golly, I want to thank you right now. I remember one time we was putting in one of your separators there, and Wally Shep was down there, and we thought, well, when we got done making cheese, which was like 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, we thought we'd hook it up. And it was and Westphalia was your famous brand that you used.
They were made in Germany.
They were made in Germany. Did you sell many of the other ones, or that was the only?
No, we sold a Swiss separator before that called a Triumphator.
I see.
But they only made their machines so big, so we had to go
to Westphalia.
Separator.
Did you handle any dealer valves, or?
No, we didn't. A competitor in Darlington Dairy Supply handled the
They
dealer
handled
valves.
the dealer valves. Well, anyhow, when we called you, hell, I think it was like 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning, and we said, Paul, we just can't get this separator going. And with your little chuckle, like you're chuckling right now, with a little smile I couldn't see on the other end of that phone, but I thought I knew just what you was thinking. Well, why didn't you call us? But we thought we could maybe get by without your knowledge.
No, John, you like to get us undone. Did you chuckle like you just did now?
Yes, by golly, those were the days. Now, could you maybe just tell us what we did wrong?
Well, you had some wires crossed from the starting switch to the motor.
Yeah.
There were 6 wires coming down, and you just got on the wrong terminals.
Yeah, well, we hooked a 1, 2, and 3 sequence, right?
Right. But then the other ones went 5, 4, and 6, and you wired them 4, 5, 6.
Yeah, we thought they were in sequence, and we never. He said,
But
well,
now, John, if you'd have got down on your knees and the flashlight had looked in there, you'd have seen that.
Yeah, they were the days. You know, long days. I got it. They were long days, long nights. And let's see now. You retired here.
Just in '94, I sold the business to 2 of the fellows that had worked for me for quite a few years, Paul Seekslag and Steve Phillips. And now they're going on with the same thing.
Now, how far out did you go, Paul? I knew you traveled extensively there, but...
Oh, every year after the middle 60s, or the early 60s, cheese plants started getting bigger and bigger, and you had to go farther and farther. We've been in Texas, Canada, the Dakotas, Ohio, of course Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, Minnesota.
You were pretty well known all over.
With the separators, we went that far. Now, in the last 6 or 7 years that I was there, we went out on a lot of boiler calls on the Dakotas and those areas.
A lot of boiler calls, and there was quite a transition too from the old stoker to
oh, right, that sure was. When I first started, they hand fed the boilers, and then all of a sudden they got stokers, which would clog up all the time. You had to crawl in and get the big spikes out, and then from there they went to oil, gas mostly now.
Quite a change in the industry, right?
Like you can take a boiler now and put controls on it that will call the serviceman automatically and tell him what is wrong with the boiler before he even leaves.
Oh, my goodness.
All through computers and digital equipment.
Yes, and a lot of woodwork you did, boilers, weight tanks. I understand you made weight tanks also.
Oh yes, when we had the wood shop, we made these redwood weight tanks. The redwood had to be very, very good material. Every piece of wood that you used, you had to hand sight yourself before you get it out of the lumberyard. Because if you had any pinholes or anything, any ant holes, that tank would never seal.
Yeah, it was quite an art. Well, Paul, I can't think of anything else right now. Anything that you recall, like in the wintertime, you ever getting stuck or?
Oh yes, that happened quite often. I remember one winter night, on a Sunday night, going up to Roy Cooner's up at Blanchardville. I had to get a snowplow. I could get from here to New Glarus, and that was a long way around. And from New Glarus, I had to follow a snowplow all the way out to the cheese factory, which was another 20 miles or 15. And that snowplow got stuck 3 times that we had to shovel around it so it could get moving again. And that was 2, 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
And that was another case like yours. It was just a fuse.
Yes, that's right. Just a matter of hooking the wire up.
That was a snowplow. It wasn't too happy, but those things happened.
Yeah. Well, Paul, thank you. Nice visiting with you. And
I hope I gave you the information that you wanted, John.
well, I will probably could never record it all, but
Oh.
some of it we maybe won't even record.
That's true.
We had a lot of good times together too.
Oh, we sure
And
did.
one more question: did you get much homemade wine when you was in the?
When I started in 1952, regular, you couldn't go to a cheese plant without getting wine after you were all done. Some would give you a whole bottle to take home, and some would have you sit there for 2 hours and drink one. And that was all homemade wine.
Well, that was part of the occupation.
And then in the early 70s, that kind of stopped.
Well, I'm sure glad we got that recorded. Well, thanks again.
Okay, John.
You bet.
Thank you.
You bet.